Absolute value inequalities today. Here's a couple inequalities right here. The absolute value of x is greater than 5. Here we have the absolute value of x is less than 5. Notice the difference here though. Remember, absolute value, this value could be positive or negative. This could be a positive 5, which is 5, or it could be a negative 5. Well, because it's an inequality, when I set up my two inequalities here, I have to do 5, I have to do negative 5. But when I set this up as the positive one, it stays the same. But when I do the negative one, it has to change and go opposite because negatives go backwards. So if you think about it, a value of x that's less than negative 5, like negative 6, if I put negative 6 in there here, the absolute value of negative 6 is 6, and that's greater than 5. But otherwise, if I do the positive one, like a positive 6 is greater than 5. Positive 6, the absolute value of positive 6 is greater than 5. So we have two inequalities here that take place. And if you look at these on the number line, here's 0 and here's 5, and then here's negative 5. Okay, x is greater than 5. So right here, I've got greater than 5 going this way. Here, x is less than negative 5, which would be right here, and it's going that way. Okay, the issue here is you cannot do both of these. It's not possible to be greater than 5 and at the same time less than negative 5. So we put the word or in here. Okay, on the other hand, if x is less than 5, the absolute value of x is less than 5. Okay, when I set up my two inequalities, the first one's just the same. But when I do the negative, remember now the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. So when I do the negative one, it changes also. And so I get these two inequalities right here. Okay, well, if you look at this on the number line, here's 0, here's 5, here's negative 5. X is less than 5, so it means we've got an inequality that goes this way. X is greater than negative 5. Here's negative 5, and greater than goes this way. And these point towards each other, which means it's got to be greater than negative 5 and at the same time has to be less than negative 5. So this is an and statement. Okay? Which means it's got to be less than 5 and at the same time greater than negative 5. It has to do both. So if I take a number like 2, 2 should work. The absolute value of 2 is 2. That's less than 5. But if I take a value that's outside of that, like 6, the absolute value of 6 is 6, and that is not less than 5. Or if I take something like negative 6, see, that wouldn't work either. So it's got to be between these two right here. So x is less than 5, and at the same time, x is greater than negative 5. Now, what we like to do is we want to write this in what we call short form. Okay, and so what we want less thans. So here's x is less than 5. Now, this one here, I need to convert it to less than, which means the x would have to come on this side, the negative 5 would have to go to this side, and that would be a less than now. And here's my x right here, and I got short form right there. Okay, so again, this was a less than, x is less than 5, so I wrote that right here. This was greater than, so I changed it around to make it into less than, and so I just put negative 5 less than x, negative 5 less than x, which x is less than 5, and we got short form. All right, so now what you have to remember is this. When do you have an or? When do you have an and? Well, this is my little thing I always did right here. Great or, when it's a greater than, it's an or. Great or, less than. When it's a less than, I have to use the word and. And so if you remember this right here, you'll always get the inequalities right. All right, so let's look at some of the problems we're going to deal with today. Here's number 1. We've got the absolute value of x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 13. So I need to set this up into two inequalities. So the first one's going to look just like it. X plus 2 is greater than or equal to 13. The other one's going to be x plus 2. I'm going to change this around to go the other way. so I can do negative 13 because negatives go backwards. Now, what's my word that goes in here? And or? Well, it's great or. So my word is or here. And that's important because it either is one way or the other, or they connect. Well, this is or, and it's either one way or the other. So on this, I'll subtract 2. X is greater than or equal to 11. And there you go, there's that one. Or, when I subtract 2 here, X is less than or equal to negative 15. And here's my answer right there. X has to be greater than or equal to 11, or X has to be less than or equal to negative 15. One or the other. What about number 5 here? All right, this absolute value is not simplified, or is not isolated. We've got to get rid of this 4. We've got to get rid of this 6 before we can set up our 2 inequalities. So first thing is subtract 6. Got to go away. And so now I'm looking like this. 18 minus 6 is 12. So here you go. There's the first step. Now I still got to get rid of this 4. So what I'm going to do here now, I'm going to divide both sides by 4 to make this cancel off. And now I have this. I've got the absolute value of x minus 3 is greater than 3. 12 divided by 4 is 3. And here's my inequality. I can set up 2 of them now from the absolute value. So the first one is going to be x minus 3 is greater than 3. It's a great or, so my word be or here. And then I do x minus 3, and I turn this around so I can do negative 3. And there's my 2 inequalities. Now I'll do is I add 3 to both sides here. X is greater than 6. Or if I add 3 here, I get x is less than 0. And there's my 2 inequalities. That's my answer right here. Okay, here's number 8. What we got with this? Well, again, we got these numbers here we're going to have to get rid of. So I need to add 2 first. So it's going to have this. That go away, and this is going to be a 20. All right, well, I still got to get rid of that 4. So to get rid of the 4, divide both sides by 4. Make this cancel. And that gives me x minus 8 is less than 5. And there you go. We've got it isolated. My absolute value is isolated. Now I can set up my 2 inequalities. The first one looks just like this without the absolute value bars. Now my key word here, since it's a less than, and then I do the other one, which is going to be x minus 8. I turn this around so I can do the negative 5. And there's my 2 inequalities. Now I'm going to add 8 to both sides here. It gives me x is less than 13. And at the same time, I'll add 8 here. And that's going to be a 3. So here's my answer. But I need to do it in short form. So I'm going to do short form. It's got to be less than. So this one's good. See here? X is less than 13. It got to be less thans for short form. Uh-oh. Wasn't on the screen. Wasn't paying attention. So here's this one in short form. I need to change this one around to less than, which means I'll just switch these and put the 3 on this side, put the x on that side, and that turns it into less than. And I'll put this right in front of here. And there's my answer in short form. Okay. Now here's number 12. I'll do this one. And again, we got numbers here we got to get rid of. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add 5 to get rid of this 5 here. That'll go away. And so now I have this. Okay. Now I got to divide by that 5. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 5. That's going to cancel this off. And I'm dividing by a negative, so I almost made a mistake here. When you divide both sides by a negative, it turns your inequality the other way. And then here you go. we are ready to set this thing up. We got our absolute value isolated. So now I'm going to do this. 9 minus 3x is less, I don't need the bars, is less than 3. My keyword, less than, so it's and. Then I'm going to do 9 minus 3x. I'm going to turn this around and do negative 3. I left my equal to line off there. Okay, so 9 minus 3x less than or equal to 3. Less than, so it's an and is my keyword. Then we have 9 minus 3x, and I turn this around and do negative 3. Now I'm ready to solve both of those. So right here, I'm going minus 9 on both sides. Negative 3x is less than or equal to negative 6. And I'm going to divide by negative 3. And when I do, I divide it by negative, so it turns this around, and that's going to be a 2. Okay, and over here, I'm going to do this one, so I'm going to minus 9 on both sides. This will go away. Negative 3x is greater than, that's negative 12. I'll divide both sides by negative 3. When I divide by negative, it turns that around. And there you go. There's my answer right there. But I want to do short form. So on short form, I want less than. So here's a less than right here. So I'm going to keep that guy. So it's going to be x is less than or equal to 4. This one here, I need to change him around. So it means I put the 2 on this side. I put the x on that side, and that turns it around. So I just put that right in front of this x here. So I'm going to have 2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 4. And there's my answer in short form. Okay. All right, we'll do one more. We'll be all finished up here. This is number 14. And again, we've got numbers here to get rid of. So I'm going to minus 3 on both sides. They go away. And so I have this. Okay, well, I got that 4 there. So I need to divide both sides by 4 to get rid of that 4. And that gets me here. And now my absolute value is isolated. So I can set up my 2 inequalities. So I'm going to have 8 plus 2x is less than 6, less than. And then we'll have 8 plus 2x greater than negative 6. Okay. And so I'm going to subtract 8 on both sides. That'd be 2x is less than negative 2, and then divide by 2. There's that one. And over here, I'm going to subtract 8 on both sides. That's negative 14. Then we'll divide by 2. And x is greater than negative 7. This is an and, so I can put it in short form. So in short form, I want my less than here. And I turn this one around, which means I'm going to have the negative 7. I'm going to turn that around to less than and have the x on this side. So here's what I turn this around to. And that just goes right in front of this. So negative 7 is less than x. And x is less than negative 1. Here's short form. Okay. And so that's pretty much it on these absolute value inequalities. So hope you guys can get these all right. If you need help, just let me know. I'll help you all I can. Have a good rest of the day.